you like to ditch the old you and become a new, better, more empowered version of you? A version that is high on life, not just some of the time, but all of the time. A version that is living their dream life with their dream partner and their dream career. This is what life can be like when you go from merely surviving to thriving. And this is what life is like now for my guest today, Felicity Paroissien. However, this was not always the case for her and her life. At one point, she was in full-on survival mode. How did she turn it all around to live the life of her dreams? In today's podcast episode, we'll hear her story and how she went from surviving to thriving. We'll talk about what does it take to turn your life around? What changes are necessary in thinking and behaving? What are some lessons that she has learned along the way that we can all benefit from? And what can you do right now in your life to start shifting from surviving to thriving? Felicity is a certified osteopath doctor, medical acupuncturist, and certified kinesiologist. She was also a mindset mentor, alchemy success coach, and founder of the Realignment Academy. You can learn more about her and contact her at her website, www.steinersuccesssolutions.com. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me again here today. As always, it's Coach Brad, the Be Well, Be Safe, Be Happy, Eat Ice Cream podcast. And I am with Felicity today. Felicity, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much, Brad. It's a pleasure to be here and I'm excited. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm excited because you have got quite the story. So I know we originally chatted in the Tony Robbins Facebook group, and you wrote a story that I thought was very powerful, very inspiring. In fact, I'm calling this episode from who you are to who you want to be, from this idea of surviving to thriving. And that's kind of your life over the past decade in a nutshell. So why don't we start there and take us back 10 years and kind of like, where were you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all that, from this survival mode to this incredible doctor, philanthropist, thriving person that you are today?
Well, thank you. Yeah, very good questions. So it seems like a very long time ago now, a decade ago. So my early 30s, I was living in the United Kingdom and I was going through my studies. I'd done a whole myriad of studies in biology, sciences, molecular biology. I was an eternal student. And it did nothing for my self-confidence long term because it got me in that sort of mind frame of being a student and not being responsible for myself.
Okay.
So that's where it all started from. And what did that do? That got me into a momentum of getting in a bad relationship, getting in relationships with people who were not responsible for themselves. And it was a mirror on as to what I was at the time. And also focusing very much on my studies. At the time, my priority was my studies in my head, but my heart was saying, let's get out there, let's get married, let's find the right fit for me, and let's start a family. That did not happen.
Oh, okay. So your heart was kind of on getting married and finding someone and doing getting a family, but your head was like on your studies. So what kind of take us down that path? What happened?
Well, I continued with my studies. I got through them. I fumbled through them. And the relationship went south. I had a very misaligned relationship and a series of misaligned relationships because I was clearly not listening to my heart. I was listening to my head. And when we listen to our heads, we're not in touch with our intuition. And that was one of the factors which never led me to success, to thriving, which is where I'm at today. And that was making me be in the survival mode. So that was a big eye opener for me. I went from one bad relationship to the next, and each relationship had its knock-on effect because each relationship which ended, my hopes were up here, the reality was down here, and I was not getting my desires met, and that would take a knock-on effect on my confidence levels. And that would just put me down further and further with the surviving mode.
So
that's really.
So in all these relationships that weren't working out, you were basically just in your head and operating life from your head as opposed to your heart. Is that kind of how it was?
Absolutely. And it was a very long process. I had to go through many, many more years of turmoil for me to really understand that, to get to the level where I am today, I had to really start to look at myself in the mirror. Yeah. So at the time, I was starting to blame what was going on outside of me. It's that person's fault, or it's because I was doing too many studies, or whatever
Yeah.
it was the reason. Yeah. Whereas today, well, up until that, until today, I started to point the finger inwards and say, well, what's going on inside of me, which has created that reality? And what is it I need to do, which needs to shift and which needs to change? Because I cannot get new results with an old mind frame, with an old mindset.
Very, very true. And so when you were operating from this place of your head and blaming everything, going on, outside of yourself before you looked inside, how would you describe your life at that point? Like lots of anxiety or depression or
Absolutely. If we're taking it back into that time, very dark. So I had very, very little self-esteem. I never thought I was good enough. I never thought I was presentable enough. I
Mhm.
never thought I was smart enough or
Yeah,
intelligent enough, was worthy enough. Hey, I
yeah.
wanted to be with the right person for me. I had standards, but I never felt I was worthy for that, or that somebody would value me for the standards I had. So I would always sabotage a good opportunity. And
Ah,
that was very conscious. Yeah, I would always sabotage a very good opportunity. I'd run away from the candidates that could be the right fit for me, and I would sort of go for the candidates who were really not the right fit for me, knowing that I was going to be accepted by them, obviously for the wrong reasons.
mhm.
So absolutely, I was really doubting myself, very little self-trust and very little self-confidence, and of course very little self-love, and it all stems from that.
And so basically your life was just not working out and kind of what we're calling survival mode here today then.
Absolutely. Now, I got through the studies, and getting through the studies was very good. So that got me the job in Monaco before I came down here to the south of France. So I got offered a position in Monaco, and when I came here about 8, 9 years ago now, my life went on a different path. I said, okay, now this box has been checked. I'm now a professional as I have desired myself to be, and I need to check the other one. But it was going to take me many more years and many more years of understanding and making a few more mistakes to get there. And again, it comes down to self-love, self-worth, self-trust, self-value. I still hadn't clocked it at that stage.
Yeah. So
So
was there a tipping point then that you said, okay, the current method isn't working for me. I got to do something different here. What was that?
absolutely. At the time I was involved, I was in a relationship with somebody who it was a pretty high power position in Monaco. And I had hopes that we had talked about marriage, and I had hopes that that was going to happen. And to cut a very long story short, after several years, it didn't happen. So
Hmm.
I was very distraught. And it was a very bad energy. That energy led me into my second very bad relationship, where again I was with somebody else, and again we talked about marriage, and my hopes were very, very high, and I really thought it was going to happen, and then again, boom, last minute, the person disappeared on me. So
Wow.
twice in a row that happened, and the second time round it happened, I said, that's it, that is it. I got to the point where I was rock bottom. I didn't know what I was
Um,
doing. I was constantly doubting myself. I'd let my barriers go. I'd lowered my standards to please these people.
mm,
And that's when I decided to enroll in a mentoring program, a one-on-one mentoring program, because I was either going to go south or I could go north. There was no gray area in between. It
right.
was either one or the other.
Yeah.
So I decided to pluck my courage, and I decided to get on a mentoring program and decided to take my life to the next level. And to do that, I had to get really strict with myself and start changing what was going on inside of me, which was making me feel unworthy,
Okay.
unvaluable, not trusting myself, picking the wrong people, picking very, very, very unsuitable men at the time, and getting myself to a stage where I was going to put myself first. I was going to learn how to love myself first, that I was going to accept myself, warts and all, spots and all, doesn't matter, unconditionally, so that that was what's going to be mirrored back to me through somebody else. And essentially that's what happened.
And so what was the first thing you realized? You just talked about like self-love and all of that. What was the first thing you realized that, oh, this is the first part of me I need to change or something like that? Or what was the first part of you that you started to work on?
Well, I had been feeling the lack of self-love throughout my whole life. So
Okay.
that which I'd been carrying since childhood, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough. That was a very internal feeling. But for me, the most important things is that when I started to really clock into the idea of self-love, I started small. So I started by doing things which I love. Now, I love the outdoors, and unfortunately, it was COVID time, so we couldn't go out.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah. You guys
always
were on lockdown for a long time. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
and we'd have the police on our backs every 5 minutes if we did go out. So
Oh, wow.
it really wasn't fun. But I would just dance around in my room all day. So I would literally set up a dance routine because I love dancing. I used to teach dancing. I would literally get myself a dance routine every day. When we were allowed to go out, I'd go and cycle. I was absolutely in love with the outdoors. I'd get out on my bike and I'd start cycling to get the endorphins going. I would also start with food. I'm a big one for being,
Oh.
yeah. I love eating healthy food. Now, in the past, that hasn't always been the case with the lack of self-love. I used to have a very unhealthy diet.
Hmm.
And I realized that to value oneself, we need to value our bodies. And how do we value our bodies and the function of our bodies and our cellular function is by giving it the good nutrition and also the good types of liquids. So I was starting to find really nice foods to eat. And because I had a lot of time on my hands, I was experimenting with recipes, etc. So those were certain things which I was starting to do. I was also starting to decorate the place.
Mm.
I used to get vigil candles, what I call vigil candles. So a set of candles, white candles, beautiful scented candles. And I would literally decorate my home with them and light them up in the evening. And I would stick an intention into each candle. So, for example, I
Wow.
was manifest the love of my life effortlessly and easily. I would stick an intention into one candle and say, okay, I am now manifesting the love of my life effortlessly and easily. I didn't know who that person was. I didn't know when. I did not know how. We were in COVID times. Everything was locked down. But I had this candle burning every night. And that allowed me to just clear the stress of how's it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And take away all the anxiety. So I would do little rituals like that every night, religiously, and just start to take care of my body, my spirit, my emotions. I had to do a lot of clearing with the past emotions and the feeling of having been disrespected in the past by several people. But all that, it was a process and it did take time. But it bared its fruit.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, because this is critical to a lot of people's journey. What was there a lot of, I guess, how do I say this? Like Tony Robbins says, like pain and pleasure. Was there a lot of pain in terms of if you thought about living the old you, and then a lot of pleasure in terms of forming the new you? Or I'm trying to get, what was the underlying why and motivation for all of this?
Absolutely. Well, the why, my absolute motivation was to be with the right fit for me. If we're talking relationship, it was to be with the right fit for me and to really have that commitment, because I had spent my whole life with people who said they wanted a commitment, who allowed me to buy into their words, and I had allowed myself to buy into their words, and at the end of the day it didn't happen. Yeah. So I got to the point where I said to myself, okay, I'm done here. I'm done with people who are just talking about things which never happen. So I'm going to stop asking to be with somebody, and I'm just going to allow it to happen to me. And I'm going to come from a place of being on the pedestal. I'm going to put myself back up there on the pedestal, because on the pedestal, I'm not going to allow my standards to go down. Yeah. And how am I going to get back up there? By starting to increase my status in nutrition, in making me happy, in having standards for people around me. All those sorts of things, little by little, were going to start raising my energy levels and get me on a pedestal. And I was not going to allow myself to compromise that. So my why was I would like to be with the right fit for me, and a commitment, a marriage commitment. If that person is not ready to make a marriage commitment, it's goodbye straight away.
Okay, wow. And so today you are married then?
Today I'm engaged and I'm married. 15th of,
Wow.
so yes, it's happening.
Wow. Wow, congratulations. Well, let me just ask this real quick, a little off topic, but I know you're a law of attraction expert, manifestation expert, and there's a lot of people out there who are trying to manifest the one. So what tips or advice would you give anyone, man or male or female, I guess, trying to manifest the one? I'm not there yet, so but I know a lot of people are.
Great question. Okay, tip number one, fall in love with yourselves.
Mm.
Fall in love with yourselves, because we cannot expect somebody to fall in love with us when we are not in love with ourselves. It's like we have two cups which are half full, and each cup represents a different person, and we're looking to fill each other's cups half full. Let's get our cup overflowing with self-love, because what's going to happen is that you're going to attract somebody else who's got their cup overflowing with love, and there's not going to be any compensation, which is what's happened in the past with misaligned relationships.
Wow.
Fall in love with yourself. Become magnetic first with yourself, because from that standpoint, you're a mirror to everybody else, and who you're going to mirror back to is going to reflect that vibration. That's tip number one. Yeah, for sure. Tip number two is become the person who you want to date. Become that.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of clients say to me, well, like, I would like somebody with all these qualities. They have a whole list of qualities, but are they themselves filling up those qualities and fitting those qualities themselves? Oftentimes the answer is no. So I would say get a list, write down all the qualities that you want in a specific person. Pull in the right person for you. Put down all the qualities you want in that person and be as generous as you can. And start thinking, okay, what is it I can do in order to be this person? So if we want somebody who's communicative, let's be communicative ourselves. No game playing, no Mickey Mouse chasing. If we want somebody who's loyal, what does it mean for me to be loyal? Yeah. If we want somebody who's faithful, what does it mean for me to be faithful? So embody those qualities, because we cannot attract what it is what we attract, what we are.
So did you do that in your situation? Did you write down a list of qualities that you wanted in your future spouse?
Oh yes, I did a lot of writing, a lot of script.
Okay.
I spent days scripting and writing. I did a lot of techniques and a lot of things which helped me get through that period. I would write letters to myself as if I had already met that person and how happy I was to be with that person. So the wish fulfilled. So coming from that area where I was already with that person in a marriage, I started off with a list of qualities which I would want in a specific person, and on the other side, I'd put the non-negotiables, the red flags. Yeah. So the red flags are very important because the list represents the blueprints for who we want to attract in our lives. And I say no freebies to anybody, not even people we have feelings for. We don't want to start collecting red flags. One is enough. And oftentimes, if we're really honest with ourselves and in relationships which haven't worked out, and we look at the red flags, we will have started to collect red flags in a relationship, which hasn't come to to the level which we'd like it to be. So very important to get clear on what we want in a relationship.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. Let me go back for a moment. You talked about tip number one, first love yourself. A lot of people are really struggling with that. What would you say to someone, how can we start to love ourselves first and foremost right away? Like, it took you a long time, and I know a lot of people want a quick fix, and it's not about a quick fix, but how does so someone is sitting at home on the couch, they're struggling with where you were, a decade ago. How can that person rise up off the couch and start to love themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so the first thing we really need to integrate and understand is that we are all perfect. We came from perfection, whether we believe in God, the universe, a divine power, source energy, whatever name we give it, we come from that energy. So we are all perfect in spirit. That's the first thing. We are here having a physical experience, not the other way around. Yeah, so we are a perfect spirit having a physical experience. Now, when we tend to think that we are not perfect or good enough, or we don't love ourselves enough, it's because we have a part of us which we've been brought up with, which is social conditioning, parental conditioning,
Yeah.
school, external factors which have made us feel that we are less than good. Whereas if we go back in time, each and every one of us, when we were born as a little baby, we thought we were the best thing since sliced bread. We thought we were perfect. We absolutely loved ourselves and we didn't care about anything external. As we grew up, we started to integrate vibrations from other people and teachings from other people, and we started to understand our limitations and therefore not feel so good. And the fact that we don't feel good and that we don't love ourselves essentially comes from that.
Mm.
That today, I would say, is the ego part of us, the part of us which wants to bring us down, the part of that wants to make us feel safe, not the spiritual part of us, which is perfection in its entirety. So it doesn't matter what happened in the past. It doesn't matter if we've made mistakes. It doesn't matter if we've disappointed family members or any other member around of us. It doesn't matter what other people say about us. We have to remember that we are doing the best we can at our given time on our journey. And that is the best we can do. And to always remember that we come from this perfect source, this perfect creative source, which thinks that we are perfect no matter what we do. Now, what we do obviously will take us away from that or closer to it. But we are essentially loved by that source, which is perfect. And therefore, our duty is to love ourselves as well.
I can relate very much to what you were saying. So how would you describe your life now? Where are you at? How are things for you now? You said you were engaged, so congratulations.
Yes. Well, it's very hectic at the moment because I'm buying a new home at the same time, getting
Okay.
changes in a very short period of time. But my life has never been so good as today. I accomplished everything which I've desired to accomplish today. I'm also running my own business. So COVID times have had a lot of changes in my journey, but I do realize that today is, again, this stage of the journey. It's a journey which will never end.
Right.
So at the moment, I'm at this stage of the journey. I love empowering others. I thrive on empowering others to get to the level which they like to be at and beyond. And I thrive on being an example as well with the person who I'm going to marry, my current fiance. I mean, he has been a role model for me. He has been everything which my past relationships have not been. So for me, that has been one of the most incredible godsends in my life. And for me to be able to respond to that today has been incredible. Whereas maybe 10 years down in the past, I would not have been able to respond to it the way I have done today. And that's part of the journey. That's part of the journey.
Yeah, it would have been neat to have just seen you 10 years ago. I obviously didn't know you 10 years ago, but to see where you were to where you are now. One of the biggest things that I've at least taken away so far is this idea of self-love, and that was a big part of your journey, learning to love yourself. What else over the past 10 years have you learned that we can learn from your experiences?
Absolutely. One thing I would definitely like to impart with you and everybody who's going to be watching this is not to give a flying hoot about what other people think about you.
Yeah.
That is self-love as well. Now, I started my early career as a professional violinist. I was a classical musician and I went through music school. I was at the Royal College of Music in London,
Wow.
which meant giving concerts on a very regular basis. So I was kind of conditioned to think about how other people thought about me and felt how my performance was, which did nothing for my self-confidence and self-love. But today, I would say we really need to get away from worrying about what other people think about us, even family members, especially people close to us, especially friends. If we really want to take our life to the next level, that is a must, an absolute must. And we need to be ready and willing to have the courage to walk away from situations which do not empower us, respect us, and support us. That is very important. And oftentimes, if we take a very good look at our lives, we'll notice that the people who are closest to us are not always filling up those roles. Yeah, they're contributing to the fact that we have limiting beliefs about ourselves or disempowering beliefs. So that's where I would say a mentoring program is very helpful because it helps us understand where our limiting beliefs are, where our disempowering beliefs are, and how to transcend through them to the next level, which is very difficult to do when you're applying it solo by yourself. So that's very important. Not to not to give a flying hoot about what other people think about us. Yeah.
So as part of your journey, did you have to break off some relationships with like friends or family members or anything like that?
I did. It was a painful process. That was painful. I mean, I did not feel good about doing that. I still don't feel so great about doing some of that. So, but I got to the point where I really had to make a decision because it was affecting my vibration, so my energy, my performance, and obviously the energy I was bringing to my relationship. So I got to a point, and I do remember a specific situation where I really had to break away from some friends who were really taking up a lot of my time and energy, and that had been going on for a while, and it was taking my vibration lower. And it was a, and I knew very well that I was responsible now for myself a lot more and for my fiance. And I thought, well, this is a question of responsibility. If we're ready to go to the next level, we need to be responsible in order to make that decision and to step into that role. And as we all know, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will turn up. And I'm a big believer that life throws us situations which will test us to see if we're ready to get to the next level. And if we don't pass that test, it will come back around in a different situation.
Yeah.
The best is to be able to clock it first time round and not have to repeat the test.
Yeah. Yeah. Ideally. Yeah. Felicity, I know you're a coach and everything. How can somebody reach you, or if they want to contact you or even work with you, how can they do that?
That would be lovely. So they can get me on my website, which is www.steiner Success Solutions. That's STEINER Success Solutions attached.com, or through my Facebook group, Ultimate Love Success. In which case they can send me a direct message. They can get my WhatsApp through my website address, and they can contact me directly through direct message. So that's definitely a possibility. Or through lawofattractionsolutions.com. So that's they can actually log on to the website lawofattractionsolutions.com and get me through that as well. Ask to work with me.
Okay, I'm going to write that one down too. So, Felicity, we've talked about a lot today. You've shared a lot. I sure appreciate you being here. Before we kind of wrap this up, is there anything else that you would like to say for the good of the order that you haven't said already?
Absolutely. Everybody trust yourselves. If we don't trust ourselves, nobody else is going to trust us. Yeah. When we're looking to get to the next level, it really does demand an amount of trust we have in ourselves. I have a lovely saying where I say, if the sun were to doubt for one instant, the moon would go out. So we need to trust ourselves. If we for 1 second doubt ourselves, we wouldn't exist anymore. Yeah. Let us have the energy of the sun, which shines upon the moon, and vice versa. Let us trust ourselves and always inhale trust and exhale doubt. And that will get you.
Good. That's good. And you're a shining example. Yeah, like I said, when I saw you in the Tony Robbins Facebook group and I read your story, where you were at 31 and to 41, you've done a complete 180. You are leading by example, I guess. You are the change that you wish to be in the world. So anyone listening, regardless of where you are in life, Felicity's story is a shining example. You can change your life. You can go from point A to point B, whatever, that looks like for you. Felicity, would you say you've completely divorced your old self now, divorced the past?
Absolutely. And also, I had the courage to step into a new identity. And I would say that to everybody who's listening to this, have the courage to create yourself a new identity. I would say the past only serves for one reason only, to see how far you've come, not to beat yourself up or feel guilty. Just see how far you've come and step into a new identity. And the best thing about stepping into a new identity is you don't have to give any reason or any credit to the past. It's a new slate.
Yeah. There's a popular saying, I know, again, from Tony Robbins. He says, the past does not equal the future, or something like that. So divorce the old you to become the new you, create that new identity. And again, wherever you are, homeless, addiction, overweight, relationship after relationship. I'm smiling here because I've kind of relate to you in that aspect. So I've got some inner work to do for sure. But yeah, so please don't think that, your life, wherever it is now, is how it has to be and how it will be for the future. That's absolutely not true. It's absolutely possible to change from, as I say, from who you are to who you are meant to be. And so, Felicity, again, you're a beautiful, shining example of that. Thank you very, very, very much for being here today. I sure appreciate that.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much. And my heartfelt wish for everybody who is watching this is to really step into their new glorious identity and to have the courage to go after their dreams, because everybody has what it takes to make it happen. Everybody. So be sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody. That includes you, the listener who is listening right now. So again, if you are listening, I do want to say thank you. I very much appreciate that. As I always like to ask at the end, if you are listening to this episode, please share it with your friends, your family, your coworkers. Share this as far and wide as possible. I'm sure you know someone that is in the midst of their point A right now and has the ability to become their point B, just like Felicity has done, just like I am doing, and just like you, the listener, are going to do. So please share this episode as far and wide on your social media handles and everywhere that you can. And I also like to ask, wherever you are listening to this podcast right now, please hit that subscribe button and please leave me a 5-star review. I would sure appreciate that. Again, as I always like to say at the end, until next time, this is Coach Brad saying, be well, be safe, be happy, eat ice cream. Thank you, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next time.